Hello everyone, welcome to another BlueHat SEO series episode. In this episode, we will give you directly implementable search engine optimization suggestions and instructions. Usually we give only 3 suggestions and all of them are unique. If you want to understand the BlueHat SEO videos, you should definitely check the previous ones as well, because if you think that some of the other suggestions are needed for understanding this specific case a little further, the reason that we are not giving them because we have given them before in the other projects as well. For instance, when it comes to understanding this type of impression jumps that you see here, impression jumps without actually click increases, we explained it in the last video while also explaining this specific SaaS SEO case study that we have actually written before. Here too, you will see actually a kind of impression jump during the broad core algorithm update. It means that this source has been considered as one of the most important candidates to rank higher, or the winner of the ranking or that specific algorithmic update, but it didn't continue because another source actually has taken the attention of the search engine during the rollout due to the data differences. And later still we were able to actually bring the traffic back. This means that actually you are like at the edge of that specific ranking, and it is something positive. It is not something that you should be making sad. In fact, in the last video, we also explained it through this specific SEO case study too, which is a language learning app SEO case study. And you can see the similar situations in these areas too. We also explained the concept of the trending nodes, like the quality nodes. If you understand these things, you should be watching these videos actually regularly. That's why go to our SEO playlist and watch all of them as much as possible. And if you find these videos are actually very easy, it means that you were actually following them for a very long time, and it means that you have the holistic SEO mindset like me. But at the same time, the BlueHat SEO videos are actually created to close the gap between engineer mind or SEOs with the engineer mindset and SEOs with a little bit more or less an editorial mindset at the same time, to help all the entrepreneurs around the globe. So first of all, this project is actually team color codes. I am telling it explicitly because I already have published this project before. In this specific one, the lexical semantics SEO case study, first time maybe in the SEO history, actually I have explained 26 projects under the same or the simple SEO case study at the same time, and this is what we mean with the actually holistic SEO, 80 minutes of video with all the details. And we were actually publishing all these things like while with the premieres, and we were answering the questions in the chat zone as well. So the important thing here is that if you go to the team color code section in this area, you will see the results from that specific timeline, and you can realize or recognize the increases. In fact, the website actually belongs to the Paul Jensen and a very dear friend, Dachi. And here actually this screenshot is from him, which means that actually when we create our topical map and also the content briefs to construct a semantic content network, at the beginning actually he was a little skeptical, but then he actually realized that also our content briefs and the layout changes, it is performing very much better for the users as well. And in the later stages, we increase the traffic further and further, and these are the results for these specific increases as well. You can also see how the clicks are increased. Then, while publishing team color codes here, at the first, actually, I published this specific article to explain you why the more text doesn't mean better relevance. You need better context, not more content, not more text. More text is not better context. And here I actually performed an A/B test with the team color codes, and I have actually performed this A/B test in the 100 URLs. So this is the first BlueHat SEO suggestion. If you are, for this video, if you are doing an A/B test, be sure that you are doing this A/B test at least for 100 URLs, or at least, let's say, the 10% of the website, and please make the A/B test in the popular URLs, the URLs with proper traffic. If that URL doesn't have traffic, page rank, or any kinds of prominence, the search engine won't even recognize your test. And the web page actually might be fluctuating because of your competitor rather than your changes. That's why you should be choosing lots of different type of samples and wait at least 6 weeks. In all these samples, I have just put actually 20 pages here, and you will realize that after a certain amount of time, first maybe even actually you can realize that we are losing some, let's say the clicks or change, or let's say the traffic or keywords, but later all of them actually increase the query count and also the traffic. And this is Search Console, this is Ahrefs data for these URLs, and all the results are here. 45 impression increase and 84 average position increase, 32% query count increase, or sorry, 66% query count increase, And some of them are even actually the results of the 8 weeks data. So which means that if you want to do an A/B test, be sure that you are doing the A/B test with important amount of URLs, at least 10% of the URLs, and at least wait for the 6 weeks to get the proper type of results. And be sure that these URLs also have the traffic and the prominence so that search engine can actually understand the changes that you are doing. So when it comes to the second suggestion for this specific BlueHat SEO case study, is that please understand the term context in the context of the search engines. That's why I define the definition of context here directly. And this is actually a book for information retrieval from Abdul Karim. I can't read your last name, sorry for it, but Boromul, I guess, and Mohammed Kalladi and some other researchers as well. And the book name, as much as I can remember, it was actually the Contextual Search, and they define the contextual search. While having this, when it comes to the programmatic SEO with the semantics, again, as I have said many times, a concept that I found and invented is micro semantics, which means that if you're able to make a single page 0.1% better and more relevant in the context of the programmatic SEO, that difference will be multiplied 100,000 times because you are doing that change site-wide. And it means that by doing micro improvements, you can actually outrank your competitors. And if you are able to increase your quality gradually with a certain type of frequency and with a direction, you can convince the search engine for ranking higher. But you should be sure that you are increasing your quality gradually and consistently through the time, so that you can be actually a candidate and you shall not miss these type of opportunities. So you understand the first suggestion, which is about the A/B test, and here I explain it, and these are the changes that I have done across these 100 most popular URLs. Once I got the results, then I actually implemented for the rest of the websites. You see the initial results, and these are the results from this specific time. So the second suggestion, as I say, understanding the contextual search in the best possible way. What does actually it means? Here I actually define two different contexts. Let's say the terms. One of them is context specifying. The context specifying, this is actually a concept that I also found and invented for helping the SEOs. The first thing that a search engine does when it comes to the web document, they try to understand what the context of the document is and in what way it can be helpful for the users. And many problems actually might exist there, but the biggest problem when it comes to the contextual search, be sure that your web page is about a single thing. Single main thing. When it comes to the sub things, alternative things, similar things, or sub things, they might be appearing later, but be sure that the top of the page, the main content of the page, it should be about a single thing as much as possible. And the context and the entity, they are not same thing. You can have multiple entities with a single context. If you are able to match the query context with user context, and also the document context, if these three things are matching with each other, you will be able to rank in a very much better way. So context specifying is actually a process of telling the search engine what the macro context of the document is. When it comes to the context sharpening, it means that actually if we have multiple type of, let's say, relations between the entities, and in the other day during my group coaching sessions with the Topical Authority course community, I was actually telling that when you search for dog and the banana, for instance, a contextual search engine will be actually finding lots of alternative type of interpretations for this. For instance, dog or dog banana, even it might be, to be honest, a rapper name to be as well. It might be also, let's say, a dog with the name of, let's say, banana, or it might be a banana with the type of dog. It might be actually a botanic concept as well. I know that I am actually avoiding the main query context there, but I am actually showing you that there might be lots of different type of interpretations for that specific query or the query context. And I can continue actually, to be honest, all day. It might be even, to be honest, a dog sculpture that holds a banana, for instance, or it might be, let's say, even an island with banana shape, and let's say a dog might be the beach name. These things might be existing, by the way. But we know that actually what the main context here or the context of this query actually will be. So when it comes to the understanding these queries in a proper way, to be able to create the best possible web document layout and the web document structure, you will need to first understand how a search engine can understand the specific context and how you can actually sharpen it further. Because for all these possibilities, to be honest, the entities that will be appearing and the relations between them will be modified slightly. For instance, when it comes to the main context of this section, which means actually can dogs, let's say eat banana. When you have this specific context, in some of the pages you can actually have the word organic. For instance, they might not be eating the banana, but they might be eating actually organic banana, for instance, for some section. Or banana might be also a dog treat. Or certain type of dogs might not be able to eat it, but some other certain type of dogs actually might be able to eat it. And at the same time, maybe I'm just giving a random sample here, but it is possible that they might be able to eat actually certain type of bananas under certain type of conditions too. So my main point here is that if you look at the query section here, for instance, contextual search engine can take factors into the account below, for instance, time of the query or date of the query or dates on the page, geography, mood even. If they know that user actually is walking, running, driving, and these things are actually exist inside the patterns and the research papers, or even the last listened song or last bought travel tickets, last bought products, last watched movies, last watched videos, visited websites, entered queries, even face impressions. This is a patent, but never, at least they deny. Background noise, background music, user's voice tone, user's search frequency, last queries again, and the calendar situation, for instance, or last emails, last messages, last calls, and many other things actually might be affecting the specific user's context, query context, and also the web document's relevance to that specific context. Based on this, you will need to understand actually what kinds of a perspective richness you can actually create for these specific pages and the queries. And here in a bolded way, I say the important task is merging all these meaningful and human-centric metrics for creating a context to deliver better, more relevant search results to the users. And here, for instance, I also do a simple criticism for query understanding traditions of the SEO industry. For instance, there are many different types of queries according to the search engines, such as entity-seeking queries, question-formatted queries, disambiguous queries, queries that include time, or queries for historical events, and queries for slander, which are usually blocked by search engines. And here I ask a random sample. For instance, a user can type an entity-seeking query right after an ambiguous query. In this context, an ambiguous query is something like this: dog, banana. There is no predicate, there is no date or something, and it is not formatted as the question. In this context, the search engine can relate the ambiguous query to the entity-seeking query, and the core term of the ambiguous query can be attributed for the related entity in the future. Thus, a contextual search engine can relate queries and visited documents according to the query-dependent factors in this way, and a search engine can categorize the queries and connect phrases to each other in different contextual levels and the hierarchies. And here further actually I explain all these things with different type of samples to create a better context sharpening and specifying samples based on the query dependent factors. For instance, there are also query independent factors, like a user searches for a mountain holiday resort while with his family. A search engine can rank family resorts before romantic holiday resorts. Or if a user searches for a mountain holiday resort right after buying tennis racket tickets, let's say, or just buying also a tennis racket as a product, a search engine can give more contextual weight to the holiday resorts with tennis courses or within a mountain, for instance. If a user searches for holiday resort in a mountain with a tennis court to go with her family for March, the related places can be ranked according to the reviews only for the March. You will need to calculate all these possibilities in terms of the context to be able to create best possible document. So if we return our project, first of all, you can recognize this specific impression increase without the clicks, as I mentioned. The problem here was actually the document or the documents that we have created for the theme color codes, they were ranking also for, let's say, the support scores. But the website is mainly about design. Design actually is our context, because theme color codes is about giving that specific color code in different type of formats, in different type of shapes, like hexama code or hash code or different type of color codes. But when you look at that specific context, it was about the performance of the sports team. So which means that I need to specify and sharpen my context even further so that actually we can rank higher for the targeted area. Another thing is that to be able to do that, and it was the thing that I did for this specific A/B test as well. So this is still, we are in the second suggestion. So we talk about context specifying and sharpening. We have, let's say, a query, let's say X NBA team color codes. So as you know, Reddit and Koray increases their actual traffic lately a lot thanks to the helpful content update. One of the most important things when it comes to the contextual search is, I will write it here, perspective. And the perspective richness has been represented in all these possibilities as you see in this area, with all the timeliness like March or last byte, both product or calendar events and etc. And you will need to create all these combinations and perspectives that come from this contextual richness on your document. So why we can actually search a color code? Of course, the first reason, the main obvious reason is design purposes. You need it. But also you can need it actually for the web development purposes. You might be also a fan of the team. The important thing here is that if you are a fan of the team color code, or let's say X NBA team color code, will need to be interpreted again. And like this, let's say NBA, X NBA team, logo colors, or let's say uniform colors, or stadium, let's say colors, and their codes also might be different as well. Another thing is that when it comes to the team logo, which is another attribute, but still it is inside the context of actual design. And logo design, let me write here, logo design, logo meaning, and logo objects. And most of the teams actually have animals in their logo, and animal colors. Another problem here is that every color means something else based on the team. Red in X team color code, let's say, might be meaning something else, and red in another team might be meaning something else. The same also is happening for the animals as well, which means that web development and design, let's say, design context is different from the fan context, and I will need to include all these perspectives. The last part that I did was actually merging these contextual domains, zones, or the layers with each other. If you are a designer, you are designing it actually for the fan, which means that you will need to understand what these colors mean, or what these, let's say, animals are also mean too. Another thing that I do is helping search engine for the NER, which means named entity recognition. And to be able to do that, I actually included these type of animals, colors, stadium information, or historical information about these teams as much as possible. One more problem is that they change their uniforms or logos or their colors as well. Another part is that I was actually presenting this information in a rich way, but also in different formats. And this brings us to the actual third BlueHat suggestion. It is about structured plus unstructured content. So you should understand that the capacity or the algorithms that a search engine is using for understanding structured and unstructured content is not the same. You will need to give the same information in a supporting way, the confidence of accuracy for search engines in different formats. You will need to tell these things in a paragraph. Then you will need to tell these things also inside structured content items like tables, lists, etc. In fact, I even played with the feature snippets. I didn't publish it, but when I play with the HTML, I recognize that actually search engine is giving even more space and more structured, let's say, tables, feature snippets, especially in desktop, and there were ways to trigger it. I didn't add to the case study since it is a little bit too much dark side of the semantics, but in the future we can also maybe deep dive in these type of areas too. So if we give you 3 suggestions, if you do an A/B test, please be sure that you are using big amount of URLs, important URLs, and do this change and wait at least for 6 weeks. The second one is you will need to have perspective richness as much as possible as a fan, as a designer, as a web development, and even the design context might be different because you might be the designer, but also as a fan, you might want to learn who was the designer of this logo, And these information also exists too. The third suggestion is please use structured and unstructured content together. And here too, you realize that actually with this type of programmatic changes that involve micro semantics and also macro semantics too, like context specifying and context sharpening for different type of contextual richness, we were able to win also the helpful content update and broad core algorithm update as well, and the website actually ranks higher than the before. So there are many other things to here actually explain, like as in every project, but I hope these will be helpful for you. Another thing is that before finishing, of course, I will explain a few of these research papers in a very quick way to show you actually how these things are completing each other. Most of these researches are very, very new, by the way. This is actually from last year, but still it is considered new. It is from Microsoft. This one is actually about understanding how the page should be designed. So if I give you a fourth suggestion in this area, it will be like this. If I tell you that use the structured and unstructured content at the same time, order of these components or shape of these components matter. Will you use the list, or will you first use the table, or will you use the paragraph the first, or which one will be covering what kinds of a zone, what kinds of headings or the paragraphs will you be using between them. So our purpose here was actually giving these color codes as structured, unstructured, with a richer perspective, with more information and attributes to help and increase the confidence for named entity recognition. While doing that, we also repeated the same answer with different type of contexts, and at the same time we have given more, let's say, the code or the more code variations. For instance, hex codes didn't exist in every competitor. We even have given many less used code samples here too, which means that while defining definition of X code and its values, once we give the definition and also once we include more code sections, again we are actually focusing on to the same query in many different ways, because this code might be meaning hexema or it might be meaning something else. We have it. And if the search engine isn't sure that whether the content on our page means actually the same thing as the hexema, etc., we have the definition of it in the context of this specific color for the other context variations as the designer, or historical facts about it. So we cover every teeny tiny possibility. We don't leave any chance to the search engine besides ranking us. So in this context, this is also about the visual semantics, and I will be deep dive into the visual semantics later. I will also help you to actually understand that part, but basically check this research if you want to understand further, because here there are lots of important information that you can understand, because here they explain what part they can actually focus on more, and here there are the components that they can focus on to understand the semantic relations between the components, like paragraph, table, list, table, row, table, cell, table header, table caption, list item, HTML title, invisible text, and or different type of text as well. And in this area, they try to normalize the HTML, and then they try to connect these components to each other. Then they compare their results to the data sets as much as possible. And sometimes, for instance, they check how many HTML elements appear between this and this, or they sometimes check the pixel, let's say, difference or pixel length between these things, and for what type of screen height these two things appear together, or many other things. Actually, many other perspectives are used there. This one actually, again, about the visual text, a benchmark for semantically rich chart captioning. So when we say they actually use the structured content and the tables, can't you use the image? For instance, if you use a caption, or if you are using a kind of chart as the image, not as the HTML table, what will happen? The search engine will skip that section, or are they able to actually understand your, let's say, image as well? And again, this is also about content format richness for different type of purposes. Maybe I want an HTML table, maybe I want just the image for using it in a research, for instance. And in this area too, actually, we are using different type of approaches, because if you are giving your table as an image, you can also index the image and you can increase your rankings for image search. This was also one of the tricks there. So basically, you can use actually images or captions too, because it will be also helpful. You can check this research paper to understand how they are actually use the chart captioning to understand, or to, let's say, interpreted while using OCR or different type of, let's say, formats. This one is about document level relation extraction. Why it is important? Because first of all, sentence level relation extraction is very easy because in a sentence you already give the relations. But what will happen if an entity appears at the top than at the bottom? So what kinds of a relation I should understand from here in terms of that context or relation of this specific entity here? What is the relation between here and between these entities? If you put too much distance between these things, the search engine will be losing the confidence. And this research paper is actually about it. It is very new. And here they use different type of rules. For instance, here they say that approximately 40.7% of the relations contained in a docret, which is a data set, the largest data set for document relation understanding, can only be extracted from the reasoning over multiple sentences. But how you can help the NLP systems to understand your reasoning, for instance? Should you use all these declarations, let's say, in a consecutive way? Or should you just use different type of methodologies? For instance, what are other things that we can add to the graph in this area? And usually in semantics, lately we mainly focus on the graphs. But graph is not the only method. Look at all these methodologies to understand the relations on document level. You should be checking this if you want, a little bit. Also try to check this type of, let's say, NLP test or the benchmark verticals like causal reasoning. What does it mean? Identification of assumption. If you are giving a fact in the form of an assumption, what will happen? So whether the search engine will see it as a fact, or will they just identify it as an assumption of yourself? So you should understand these things so that actually you can also communicate with the search engines in a better way. I know that lately my BlueHat SEO videos are getting longer. I will make them shorter, I promise you. And before the end, I would like to promote one more SEO. I don't know how to read your last name, brother, but I am sure that you are a great person, and he is from our community, and He actually tell that, let me just open this. Also, he is actually thanking us. Great thanks for spreading this knowledge, he tells. And also he tells that our course helped him to change the mindset. And I'm happy for that. And I'm also happy for he's using the methodologies. So probably the name is Marco maybe, or something like that. I'm not able to read as I say. But probably I will be adding a link, and I would suggest you to connect with him. If you want to join to our communities, I will leave this link there too. Please subscribe so that you can join our communities. And when we create our AI newsletter, you can also learn more too. Love you all, and see you next time.